Good evening, my only brothers and sisters. Gedalia Fenster, in explaining about the Jewish New Year spiritual idea that don't let logic ruin your life. Number 11 of 12 recommendations he had for the year. Let's turn this fan off. Some background noise for you guys. Don't let logic ruin your life. And I want to bring it into what we've been learning about A, B, C, D days, and how the lower you go, the more your thoughts become strong, real, and loud. Don't let logic ruin your life. Now, how does logic ruin your life? You would think that logic is a very useful tool. Don't want to hold the knife by the wrong end of the knife bite. But what about logic? I work with this client in Chicago. What a sweet woman in her 60s, late 60s. We call her Lucy. It's not her name, but we have an obligation to keep people's names private. She was so sweet, my goodness. Most sensitive person I think I've ever met in my practice. It's like God built her with no armor. No armor. Zero. Everything hurt. Now that I think about it, she had fibromyalgia to boot. Now, she looked at everybody with good eyes. The Holy Rebbe Nachman says that one of our jobs right now, in general, his students tell us, is to look at everybody with good. And if you're seeing something bad about someone and it's really strong to you, it's because you're not really looking at who they are. You're looking at a layer and a surface. And we need to look deeper. And this woman, exemplary, and she lived alone, quiet, art, music, cats, birds outside, concerned about the wildlife around her house. Man. Now, she thought that everybody had acceptable, lovable insides in the world, like everybody, except one person. And I guess you probably already know who I'm talking about, her. She did not believe that she was a worthwhile person. And she suffered for decades of depression. Now, she had logic ruining her life. Because she believed that she was just a worthless person. That she was defective in so many ways. And she did have some things that were not so-called average and normal. Her sensitivities, her awkward social style. She didn't dress the way people thought she should dress. She didn't take the career path people thought she should take. She didn't really conform with the shoulds, but she lived her life in a house with a critic that told her that she was worthless, and she believed it. And that's letting logic ruin your life. When we have a broadcast, a loud voice, and it's very convincing. But why is it very convincing? Because it's so logical. So I said to her one day, I said, come on, do you really, really, really believe that you're worthless? She looked at me with absolute simplicity, said, yes, I absolutely do. I'm 100% certain. And you know what? If we hooked her up to a lie detector test, I'm pretty darn certain that it will come out that she really believes it. Like, deep down, she's not even wondering. Every single person in the entire world is a worthwhile, worth-filled person, and she is not. And she's not. Explain that. And that was as logical as counting to 5 on 5 fingers to her. How does that work? Well, thank God for the cognitive psychologists who give us some easy language to understand this. They teach us about 10 categories of distortion. cognitive filters, reality filters that blind us from seeing what's right in front of us through our own subjective lens. And in the end, we see a filtered version of that and either suffer or fantasize and false pleasure or whatever. So magnification, catastrophic thinking, fortune telling, admiring, all that bends the way we see things, just like a refractory lens or a prism or a filter on a camera, light. So personalization. Oh, it looks like, you're saying something has nothing to do with me, and I take it personally. Fine. So there's really one fascinating one. It's called emotional reasoning. And I think emotional reasoning is one major source of don't let logic ruin your life. Don't let logic ruin your life. Because it seems very logical. If it feels true, it is true. Emotional reasoning is where my emotional data tells me about what is true. So essentially, one example is, man, there's something not right with that guy. I just know it. There's something not right. You see, I knew it. So I felt something in my stomach. And I know that if I feel that, it's true. Kinesiology, intuitive reasoning, emotional reasoning. So that's let logic ruin your life. I remember, I think it was a big part of my life, having emotional, intuitive reasoning, gut instincts, intuition, tune in. That's good. There's data there. It's good data to know what my emotions think. But it's illogical. Look at this woman. Do you know why she believed she was worthless? Because she put great stock in emotional reasoning filter and the voice that used that in her mind. The critic says you are a worthless piece of doo-doo. And her mind thinks, well, it feels that way. Yep, it's true. I really suck at that. How do you know? Because I feel like I do. I'll never be able to do that. How do you know? Because I feel like I do. I won't. We all do it. I'm bringing extreme examples, but we all do it all the time. And this lets logic ruin our life. And logic is ruining and ruining and ruining and ruining our life. And so Gedalia Fencer comes along to try to warn us and say, hey, don't let logic ruin your life. Don't let logic be the knife that slices and dices up your day. So I think let's use uncertainty for our own benefit for once. Most of the time, uncertainty is ungrounding and a lack of faith and right? Let's use uncertainty to be uncertain about things that we are emotionally super certain about. Is it absolutely true? Just because I feel it's true doesn't mean it is true. No. There's an irrational thought, a distorted thought, and a deluded thought. And a deluded thought, one way of explaining it technically, is that if something is so fictional and yet so true to a person, they actually believe it's true, becomes like delusional. Like the girl who, God forbid, she weighs 87 pounds. She's 5'10", and she's in Highland Park Hospital in Chicago for eating disorder clinic for teenagers because she momish believes that she's still fat. So that's a delusional body dysmorphic disorder. The person actually experiences themselves that way. And again, I'm using my sensory and emotional data perception, emotional reasoning to decide what's true. And so in a certain way, don't let logic in your life. How do we make that practical? I think just by not being so certain about what we think is true, what we feel is true. Putting a big question mark on every thought. And moving from, I know I suck, to, I don't know if I suck or don't suck. I know I'm a failure, to, I don't know if I'm a failure. From, I'll never work out, to, I don't know what the heck will work out or won't work out. There's an unintentional self-certainty, which also could be called arrogance. But, self-absorption and self-certainty that comes along with this type of thinking. And let me be the first to say, I do this extensively. I'm so grateful and happy to hear this from Gedalia Fenster and from the cognitive therapists. So we spoke the other night about the clay digger and the clay digger. You know what? We're going to leave that for another time. If you're still with me, thank you, my holy brothers and sisters, for giving me a chance to share some of these beautiful ideas from the holy teachers, past, present. So I'll come close to Rabbi Nachum and Fego and his holy teachings here. So don't let logic ruin your life. Don't let logic ruin your life. Emotional reasoning is a reality filter. And it's how cults are built, and it's how self-delusions and self-criticism. And there's an arrogance in it, right? There's an arrogance. There's a self-absorption, narcissism, really. And we all have so much of it. Our society is not helping right now, our culture. Every side. It's all about me. You do you. Be your authentic self. Tune in and feel what you really need. Feel what's really true to you. Don't let logic ruin your life. Now, it's sort of like, let's throw away logic for I don't know anything at worst, and at best, throw away logic for wisdom. Wisdom is different than logic. Logic is like a math problem or like a mechanical device that could be used by a villain or a hero and gets used interchangeably in our minds every day, all day long, sometimes by the darker side. The Darth Vader of my brain is saying, you suck and you suck and you suck and you suck and what's wrong with you and what's wrong with you and what's wrong with you. Now check this out, this little trick. So your brain says, what's wrong with you? That is to say that you're really messed up. And then, how do you feel? Many of us, you guys have been learning cognitive therapy. You've been learning the cognitive mapping, beautiful tool. The situation, your brain says you're messed up. My thought is right, I'm really messed up. You feel down, despair, hopeless, powerless, all of that. So now I'm feeling powerless, feeling down, I'm feeling low. And if I'm already a little bit bent towards emotional data, emotional reasoning, letting logic ruin my life once again, unbeknownst to me, and falling into the trap of the Darth Vader community. I would like immunity from the Darth Vader's community. I'd like immunity from the community of Darth Vader and Ralph Nader. Nothing against Ralph Nader. Seems like a good guy. Going on. So now we have this feedback loop that starts. Okay, I feel worthless because my mind told me I am worthless. And now I think if I worthless, I sure feel worthless. Which then in turn strengthens the thought that I'm worthless. And then my mind broadcasts, you're worthless. And then I feel even more worthless. Which now, so like opening the door to allowing the logic of emotional reasoning in is a very, very dangerous thing that we all do. And I'm not saying it's changeable easily, and I'm not saying you can just, I don't know, all of a sudden stop. But at the very least, I'm encouraging myself, I'm encouraging you, and all of us to challenge it. Is it really true? I'm not so certain if I actually suck. Let's go to the unknown. I don't understand a thing. I don't understand a thing. I know nothing, and that makes me sing. This is a variant of a song that, you got COVID variants. We also have joy song variants. I don't understand a thing. I don't understand a thing. The divine is above me, and that makes me sing. I don't understand anything. I don't know anything. And that makes me absolutely sing. Thank you so much to God for giving me wisdom. Makes me not feel as odd. I made up. Okay, this is a different, variant of the Daniel Levy Virus Song Committee. If you're still with me. Cha-ching. I guess the real message is, let's become more humble. Let's start rightfully walking in our lowly human minds. I mean, what do we know? Nothing about nothing. And the ones who know the most among us barely know anything. What there is to know. But more importantly, we just don't see clearly. We are not perceptive clarity. The Kabbalah talks about a concept called Asbak Lara She'ena Me'ira, Asbak Lara She'me'ira. I had some rabbis in Israel, and I had the privilege of living there for a while, teach us about this, that there's a glass that is clear, that some prophets, sages, mystics look through, and there's a glass that's foggy. And then there's a one-way mirror. And you and I are talking about the one-way mirror. I look in the mirror, and I see someone worthless, and then I'm looking, that's me. But I feel like I'm looking at someone else. But really, I'm looking at me. Our goal is to scrape away that mirror, and then I got that foggy residue left, and then to brush that off. And one method, one tool is start becoming uncertain about that which you're certain about that has negative content. I don't understand a thing. Don't understand a thing. All I know is God loves me, and that makes me sing. Thank you so much, Hashem, my loving God, as everything you do is for the very best. Now, I don't know that, so what are these guys saying? I don't know what's for the best and what's not for the best. They're actually saying it on heritage, meaning they trust the holy teachers and the holy prophets. They don't trust their own reasoning. And you know what? One final checkmate point here, and we're getting to the 20-minute mark in a minute or so, and I try to keep it to about 20 minutes, is that, checkmate on this is, I want you to take a minute and think about, is there ever been a time when you were deeply convinced about X, about yourself, about your relationship, about how you are as a person, and then to come find out later that that event wasn't the way you thought it was, that that person wasn't the way you thought they were, that you aren't quite what you thought you were. Maybe you're much worse, but whatever it is, you realize that your thoughts were not broadcasting to you the truth. So how many times do I have to get lied at by somebody before I realize that I might not be able to trust them? Just think about this for a minute. If I have a friend who 9 out of 10 times tells the truth, now, I don't need to think everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. But I sure better have a question mark. So if he says 10 things and they're all true, to me, I just let logic ruin my life. Because that's not wise. And what if I have a friend who only tells me the truth 5 out of 10 times? How many times do I have to get burned by my mind till I believe that maybe my mind is not as trustworthy with its truth as my mind would have me believe? And it's not random. This is spiritual work and growth. May we be strengthened to continue to do so. How many times do I have to get burned? But I'm still getting burned. It's even happening, one of them in my head right now. Like, do these people really want to hear this? It seems kind of true. But why does it seem true? Because it feels true. But let's be a little uncertain. Let's be a little uncertain about our negativity. How certain we are about such negative truths. My holy friend, thinking of somebody I spoke with earlier today, should know that what your mind says is not reality. What it says about how low you are, what it says about how messed up of a life partner you are, is just not true. It's just not true. So don't let logic ruin your life. Let's take this advice and live it well. Let's start piercing a hole in the certainty. Today I was working with somebody, and it was a fascinating conversation because he basically said, doesn't believe in the afterlife and basically God or purpose or morality. Why? Very smart, open-minded, younger man. Because you haven't proven to me that there is. Well, that's how logic could ruin our life. I mean, think about it. I can't prove that there is, I can't prove that there ain't, because I ain't been there. But he said he's going to hold the position that there isn't until you prove that there is. But how do you know there's not? Is it equal? We have to poke a hole in that certainty. So thank you for listening. And don't forget to not let logic ruin your life. Pierce a hole in the certainty that brings you to negative feelings and emotions by asking, is it really true? Is this helpful?